Welcome to my very late reaction on the Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Links Skill Rebalance. So this morning, Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Links released the upcoming skill rebalancing and doing a lot of changes to the game. And I want to make a quick video kind of just talking my thoughts and opinions about it. So let's get into it. So it looks like these changes are going to be happening between the 16th and the 18th. It's going to be force changed on the 23rd. So on the 23rd of January of next year, still December at the time recording this video, we're going to be getting the new change for January 23rd. A couple of people have been saying that some of the skills have been getting buffed and a few of them have been getting nerfed. And there is one skill in here that should nerf one of the most toxic decks in the game right now, Harpies. So we'll be taking a look at that in today's video. So yeah, let's go take a look. So I kind of took a look at some of the skills that got changed today. And yeah, Red Eyes Roulette, Master Right, Super Soldier, Domination of Darkness, and Ready to Get Defeated are all going to be skills that are going to get buffed. Set Delta Excel. This one right here is just doing a little nice little just I always forget what the saying is. I can't think of the saying, but basically Konami with Set Delta Excel and Psychic Vision are going to be just changing the skills to make it just easier for the players to utilize the skills and whatnot. So Set Delta Excel, we're updating the text description to make it clear that TG in the text is referring to TG monster cards. The skill effect will remain the same. So it's like not really getting a buff. It's just making things just easier for the players. Same with Psychic Vision. We'll be increasing the visibility of the opponent's hand by hiding the phase display in the turn count while the effect is active. So nice little changes there to just make things a little easier for the players. So that's kind of cool. So technically buffs, but nothing really out of the ordinary. It's not really going to change the meta whatsoever. So those two skills are going to get changed. And then Harpie's Hunting Ground, it's going to make it harder to trigger. It's going to have a harder activation condition as it made the difficult for the trap card based decks to be used in the game for a long time. I mean, who really cares, right? Like, come on here. Who likes going against an Odeon trap stall player? I don't. But at the same time, having your back row sniped and not having a way to counter Harpies is annoying. So you know what? You got to balance things out. You know what? We might just have to take a hit on going against some more trap-based decks or so that we can allow Harpies to get nerfed here. So it is what it is. We also have Contract Procrastination, and this skill constantly devastates decks that use the effect during the standby phase, so we're giving it a harder activation condition. Basically, this skill right here was like the best skill to use for DDDs, but you're also able to kind of cheese certain effects thanks to this skill right here. So you're able to skip your standby phase, which certain cards in the game need to have the standby phase to go through in order for it to not be overpowered. So that's kind of what's happening with Contract Procrastination. So those are all the changes for the ban list right here. The only one that's really important is just Harpie's Hunting Ground. Everything else is kind of like whatever, but hopefully the buffs to these skills here are going to be good. And starting off with the buffs right here, we're going to be taking a look at Red Eyes Roulette. And I read this card. This is like the only skill that I read on my own time when I was at work. And this one here, it's better, but it still isn't like that different. So Red Eyes Roulette, when it first came out, was utter garbage. Like, Konami listened to the community and they're like, okay, maybe this skill was garbage. So they did buff it, and the buff for Red Eyes Roulette is kind of decent. So choose one of the following monsters and add it to your deck from outside of your deck. Then add one random Red Eyes card to your hand from the deck and return one Red Eyes card from your hand to the deck. This skill can be used if you begin the duel with a deck including extra deck that has 10 or more Red Eyes cards, including at least 5 Red Eyes monsters. This skill can only be used once per duel. And this skill, and then all these cards on the bottom are the cards that you can just randomly add to your deck from outside your deck here. And again, this skill is a lot better than it was before. So the previous version of the skill was borderline unplayable. We can take a look at the previous version real quick. So basically the old version of this skill made it to where you couldn't activate the skill until the 4th turn onwards. So now you can use the skill right away. And 2, the extra deck for the requirements for this skill did not count. So now the extra deck does. So if you're playing like Red Eyes / Dragon or just other like Red Eyes fusion monsters, I know we got a new one recently. Well, I guess it's technically not a Red Eyes fusion, but you use a Red Eyes monster to fuse into it. But yeah, you can put slash into your extra deck and it'll count towards the requirements of having 10 or more Red Eyes cards, including 5 Red Eyes monsters. So I'll give you the ability to have more options while you're in your duels, and you get to add different cards to your deck for your Red Eyes deck. So that's pretty good. And then again, this is like kind of like an automat kind of skill where you can add a random Red Eyes card from your hand to the deck and then return a Red Eyes card from your hand to your deck. So you get to shuffle things around and have a better chance of like getting into your like Insight or Red Eyes Fusion or whatever the case may be. Still, the skill won't really see that much play, but at least it's better. At least it's better. So Big Joey got a buff here. Let's go, baby. So yeah, it's still not that good of a skill, but at least it's playable now, which is a good thing. So that's cool. Next up, we have Master of Rights Super Soldier, and let's take a look at the skill. I haven't took a look at the original skill yet, and I never really used it, but yeah, I remember this not seeing any other play either. So let's go read the skill and let's take a look. It can be used on a turn 2 and onward. Send one ritual monster from your hand to the graveyard and add a Super Soldier Synthesis from outside of your deck to your hand. During this turn, you can only special summon Blackluster Soldier monsters, and during this main phase, you can only activate one monster effect. Okay. If you send Blackluster Soldiers to the graveyard, you can also place one face down Super Soldier Rebirth from outside of your deck to your field. This skill can be used if you begin the duel with a deck with including extra deck that contains a total of at least 6 cards that are Blackluster Soldier ritual monsters, or monsters that include Blackluster Soldier in their card text. These 6 cards must also include 4 different types of card. This skill can be only used once per duel. So this is also very similar to the Joey buff right here, where at least like the activation like triggering is not going to be as difficult, where you can have more versatility with your deck here, which is good. And basically with this skill right here, it still sucks that you only can use a turn 2 and onwards. Let's take a look at the original version of this skill real quick. Okay, so I just compared the old skill to the new skill of Master Rights here. So it's kind of a buff and a nerf with this skill. So the buff that is huge with this skill right here is that this skill can be used from turn 2 and onward. So if you're going second, you're going to be able to trigger this skill. If you're going turn 1, you won't be able to use this skill, but that is honestly not that big of a deal. Before, the original skill text said you only can use this skill on your turn 2, so you would have to wait until your 4th turn or on the 4th turn of the duel in order to trigger this skill. So that is a huge buff right here. But there's kind of a nerf here where now you only can ritual summon Blackluster Soldier monsters and you can't ritual summon monsters only, because after you triggered the skill with the original skill text, it stated that you can only ritual summon monsters after you trigger the skill, but now you can only ritual summon into Blackluster Soldier monsters. But at the same time, you're playing a Blackluster Soldier deck anyway, so this nerf from the skill doesn't really matter too much. It is just pretty much a huge buff. Other than that, everything else is the same, except for the fact that to trigger this skill with the buff right here, it's not so restrictive on what you can add to your deck in order to be able to trigger this skill, considering that you can have Blackluster Soldier cards in your extra deck, whether or not you even have, I don't even know how many Blackluster Soldier extra deck cards are in the game, but you can do that. And then also, you don't really need that many Blackluster Soldier cards in your deck. As long as there's 4 different types, it just needs to be 6 cards. So pretty good buff right here for Blackluster Soldier decks. That's pretty cool. Next up that got a skill buff is Domination of Darkness. Reveal one evil hero fusion monster in your extra deck, then place all the fusion materials specifically listed on that card from outside your deck to the graveyard. When using the skill a second time in the duel, you cannot select a fusion monster the same name as for the first use. This skill can be used once per turn. This skill can be used when you begin the duel with a deck that meets the following condition. Your deck has 5 or more evil hero monsters and contains no monsters other than elemental or evil hero monsters. Your extra deck contains 5 or more evil hero monsters and contains no fusion monsters other than evil hero monsters. So this one's actually a pretty interesting one right here. So as far as I can tell, and correct me if I'm wrong in the comment section down below, but with Domination of the Darkness, the only real change that I see for the most part is just the fact that to trigger the skill, the deck requirements are not as restricted. Before, you would have to build a deck that had 10 or more cards that are evil hero monsters, dark fusion, or dark calling cards, and no monsters other than hero monsters are included in the deck. And then you can only have evil hero monsters in the extra deck. What's weird about this version of the skill is that now it's less restrictive for the fact that your deck contains 5 or more evil hero monsters and contains no monsters other than elemental or evil hero monsters. But the problem is, with the original version of the skill, it said just heroes. So if you wanted to, you could play Destiny and Vision heroes in the deck. Now you're only allowed to play evil and elemental heroes. So I don't really know if that's really much of a buff, even if you do only need less, like 5 or more evil hero monsters to trigger the skill. I don't know how I feel about that yet. On top of that too, the other buff that we do get from this is I don't think it's restricted to twice per duel. The original version of this skill said you only can use it twice per duel. So while it still has a fact where you're able to trigger the skill a second time during the duel, there's like a restriction with that. You can still use this skill as many times as you want in a duel, as long as it's just, but you only can use it once per turn. So I don't know how I feel about that. I don't really know if that's much of a buff in my opinion, but it is what it is. I mean, at least you only need to have 5 evil hero monsters now, so that is pretty huge. But yeah, it would be kind of nice to squeeze in some Destiny heroes in there, that's for sure. Luckily, there's a lot of really good elemental hero cards in the game, so it's not that big of a deal. And obviously, Konami just wants to make the skill just still true to Jaden, because Jaden did use a mix of elemental and evil heroes when he was Supreme King Jaden, so that's pretty cool. Next skill we have is Ready to Get Defeated ? Increase the attack of one galaxy-sized monster on your field that is not a number monster by 1,000 until the end of the turn. This skill can only be used once per duel. So basically the big buff of this skill is the fact that now with this skill right here, the galaxy-sized monster does not need to be special summoned anymore. The original skill text here said that it had to be special summoned this turn in order to trigger the skill. Now you get to choose whether or not you want to trigger the skill or not, so you don't need to be forced to be using it right away immediately after you use Xyz summon into a Galaxy Eyes Xyz monster. Oh yeah, and on top of that too, the fact that you can trigger the skill now, and it does not matter if the Galaxy Eyes monster is an Xyz monster or not. You can just do it with any Galaxy Eyes monster as long as it's not a number monster. So that's also another buff with this too. So you can do this with your normal Galaxy Eyes, Photon Dragons, or your Xyz summoned ones. Before, the Ready to Defeated stated that you had to have an Xyz Galaxy Eyes monster to trigger that skill. So that's kind of cool. And then we're gonna skip Set, Delta, Excel, and Psychic Vision, because again, these skills work exactly the same. They just have text clarity, and Psychic Vision is gonna just have a change where it just makes it easier to see the cards. But the big cards to take a look at right here is Harpies Hunting Ground and Contract Procrastination. With Harpies Hunting Ground, it's now changed so it can be only used at the beginning of the main phase of your first turn. Return one card from your hand to your deck and place one Harpies Hunting Ground to your field zone from your deck. If you control a field spell, place it in the graveyard. So this skill right here is basically going back to what it was nerfed previously, because for all of you guys that don't know, Harpies was actually one of the first top decks in Duel Links way back in 2017. Yeah, should be around 2017. It had really good board presence. You just summon your Harpies, pop the back row, and then the wind boost would boost your Harpies enough to where you would just be able to do well. And honestly, what made the skill so good is the fact of just how simple the meta was back in the day, because you didn't really even play Harpies. You just used the skill to trigger Harpies Hunting Ground right away, because there was the skill where you just immediately get Harpies Hunting Ground right away, and having that boost to your wind monsters to get over the other monsters and having back row removal from that skill for free was just insane back in the day for the simple just beat down meta that it was. So it got nerfed a long time ago, but then Konami brought it back to just being normal, where you just start the duel with Harpies Hunting Ground. But now with the new Harpie support, it is now getting nerfed again to back to what it was before, due to the fact that it's just still overpowered to have Harpies Hunting Ground immediately at the beginning of the duel, with just how overpowered Harpies are now. So it's just kind of funny that it's going back to that. So it's back to its original nerf, where now you need to sack a card from your hand to your deck and then now you get to place a Harpies Hunting Ground to your field zone from your deck. So you first need to play Harpies Hunting Ground in your deck again, and on top of that too, you have to return a card from your hand to your deck in order to play the skill. So it is just something right there. So with this Harpie Hunting Ground nerf, this is a really good hit to the deck, simply for the fact that Harpies Hunting Ground just made Harpies just really good, for the fact that Harpies has insane draw power, insane searchability, and on top of that too, being able to pop back row cards without any extra resources in their deck in order to pop back row. All you need to do is just play the skill. You get the field spell on your field for free, and then you just do your Harpie combos, and while you're in the middle of doing your Harpie combos, you're able to just snipe out your opponent's back row before they can do anything. And having really powerful back row like floodgates and whatnot is the only way to stop Harpies from being able to go into their synchros. But if you have a skill that gives you the field spell every single time you begin a duel, it's just too good. So this nerf right here is definitely going to help, and it's going to definitely knock down Harpies from the tier 1 meta. As you can see right here, if we go to duellinksmeta.com, it's been tier 1 for a while, and it's probably tier 1 in the power rankings too. Yeah, it's just that consistent. Sure, we have a good variety of stuff in the PvP and whatnot. This is actually a really cool variety of stuff and so many different ways to play the game. But at the same time, if you go against Harpies, they're just gonna smoke you. It is what it is, because they just pop the resources out, and then they have their field spell for free, so they get to pop your resources too. There's just no way to floodgate their stuff to stop them from popping off, or no way to trigger treacherous trap hole to stop them from going in their synchro. You just simply can't stop them. So it's just a difficult situation to deal with when going against this deck. And on top of that too, Cyber Slash is just and she also has the ability to punish you for triggering back row, making you get cards back to your hand and whatnot. So even though they can't play Swallow's Nest as much as they want to, because as you can see, they only can play one Elegant Egotist and one Swallow's Nest, that Harpie's hunting ground is just too good. So with this nerf right here, it is definitely going to help it drop it down from the tier list a little bit and probably go to tier 2, if not tier 3, unless we get a power creep. Like, unless a power creep finally happens, Harpies are still going to stay consistent. It's just they won't be as consistent anymore with the fact that you're going to be able to play punishing back row. But if we don't get a power creep in any of these boxes coming soon, Harpies are still going to see play. It just is what it is. But if we get good boxes, which the next box is promising, but we'll have to wait and see if anybody can come up with anything good, because we're getting some dummy busted pendulum search cards, but our magician's good enough to, you know, power creep any of this meta that we got going on here. We'll have to wait and see. So I'm not too sure if Harpie's hunting ground is gonna be the last nerf to kill Harpies, but it's definitely gonna be a good nerf that definitely needed to happen, because Harpies just had too much advantage. It's gonna balance it is gonna balance it out. But Harpies have been around for a very long time and has been a very consistent deck, and it just needs to go. It's just one of those decks that just needs to go. Automats finally got killed off. Now it's time for Harpies to get killed off here. It just hasn't been around. It has been around long enough. It's time to get rid of this, and this is going to definitely hurt it. But until we get a power creep in the next box or two, the deck's still staying around. It's still going to be lurking around. We'll just have to wait and see. And then contract procrastination can be used at the beginning of your turn if you have one or more dark contract cards in your field. Skip the standby phase of this turn. The skill can only be used once per duel. I am honestly surprised that the skill wasn't like that already. Like, obviously people are going to cheese out this skill to be skipping your draw standby phase to just keep certain cards on the board and whatnot, just to hang out and whatnot. I'm genuinely surprised it wasn't like this in the first place. So DDDs are still going to be able to use contract procrastination. Very cool. But yeah, this nerf right here is fine. DDDs, the skill is meant for DDDs. Other decks should not be able to cheese it out. So I don't know how I feel about this ban list, but let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. Do you guys think Harpies are finally going to be dead thanks to this hit? Or do you guys maybe agree with me, saying that maybe Harpies are not going to die, but this is a step in the right direction? Let me know in the comment section down below. Other than that, though, if you guys did enjoy today's video, smash the like button on the video down below and subscribe to the channel for more Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Links content. Other than that, that's going to do it for me, and thank you so much for watching today's video. Adios, everybody.